So let's talk about JV deals. JV stands for joint venture. I get lots of questions about that. Should I do it? Should I not do it? What is it? How does it work? So let's try to break it down just a little bit for you. A JV deal or a joint venture deal. Typically, two parties will come together and work on a deal simultaneously together to get that thing closed. So typically what happens is one person or one of the parties has the contract with the seller. So we're going to talk about joint venture deals in wholesaling. The other person is going to bring the buyer. So for the most part, these things get split 50-50, meaning whatever the profit is on the deal, when it's done, the two parties agree to split 50-50. There are some people that will do 60-40, 70-30, whatever it is, but let's just, for the sake of simplicity, talk about 50-50 because that's probably what's the most common. So in this case, you can be on either side of this deal, which is what can make it a little bit confusing. But let's just say for the simplicity's sake, why would you do a JV deal? Well, doing all of the parts of a wholesale transaction, it can be complicated. A lot of times when I'm teaching, we'll draw this timeline out on the whiteboard and we'll break down the entire process from start to finish. It starts with, you've got to identify your markets, do your marketing, get your calls, either inbound or outbound calls. You're going to do acquisitions. So you're going to actually put the property under contract. And then once it's under contract, then it shifts over to dispositions. And then dispositions is going to build a buyer's list, do the marketing, send it out, take calls from buyers, negotiate it, put the property under contract. And then there's even that third part, which is the transaction coordination, which is solving title issues and getting everybody lined up for closing. So sort of a front half and a back half of the business. So why would somebody want to do a JV deal? Well, there are people who are great at different parts of the business, right? There are some people who are really amazing at acquisitions. For instance, my brother is really great at acquisitions. Something about him, he just has no shame and he will make low offers, right? My friend Justin, fantastic at acquisitions. So there are just people who naturally gravitate towards one side of the business or the other. Me, I love dispositions. I love talking to buyers. I love that fight. I love that struggle. I love that negotiation. And I also like transaction coordination. Obviously, we own Easy REI Closings, which is the largest transactions company in the country. Let's just say you're really great at acquisitions and lead generation. You're really great at putting properties under contract, but it's just you, maybe you and a VA. You're running a very small operation and you don't really like dealing with buyers. You'd rather just talk to sellers. So in that case, what you may do is find somebody else who is great at selling, but maybe doesn't like doing the acquisitions part. And this isn't a partnership. A joint venture deal is a one-off agreement. Now, you can do one, and then you can do another, and then you can do another, but you're not in business together per se, right? You put the property under contract, you're gonna find somebody to be your dispositions person. So that's the easiest and most straightforward manner. When you work with that person, there has to be some kind of an agreement between the two of you that's written down and signed that says, hey, I am the person who has this under contract. I agree to work with this other person or company, and I give him the right to market my contract that I have locked up with the seller. So, there's got to be a little bit of paperwork there to kind of keep everything legal and also to say who's going to get what at closing. Because once he gets a buyer, somebody is going to have to take his contract, your contract, and your JV agreement, get that to the title company so that they know how to close this deal and how to disperse any funds. So let's say you contract this property at $100,000, he sells it for $130,000, and then what's going to happen is when it goes to closing, that paperwork says, hey, title company, this $30,000 in revenue, we're going to split 50 between both parties, and you're going to disperse funds at closing. What is the advantage there for the acquisitions person? You don't have to worry about dispo at all. You could just go get your next contract, go get your next contract, go get your next contract, right? Are you giving up half the money? Yeah, but you're also, somebody else is doing half the work. There is just as much talent involved in bringing a buyer as there is bringing a seller, right? You're the person with the keys to the kingdom in essence with dispositions, and that you have access to all the cash buyers. Just having that contract isn't going to do anything. You have to be able to market it and get it in front of cash buyers so that you can find somebody who's willing to pay you for it. So having good paperwork between you is really, really, really important. It doesn't have to be anything super complicated. It can be something that you type up and use. It says, hey, I'm Bob Jones and I've got a contract with Mrs. Smith for 123 Main Street for this price. And I agree to, do a joint venture with Steve and James. We'll split the proceeds 50-50, whatever the proceeds are. So on the acquisition side, that's why you might want to work with dispo. On the dispo side, for me, I'm really great at doing dispo deals, so I love it when people send me a deal and say, hey, can you sell this? I'm like, absolutely. If we sell it, we split 50-50. No troubles, we'll get this deal going. So that's what in essence, what a joint venture deal is from looking at it from both sides. If you're an acquisitions person, and especially if you're new, you don't necessarily want a new dispo guy, right? You want somebody that's got a little bit of a track record that understands how to do marketing and how to get these deals sold, right? Two newbies typically should not team up together to do this business, right? Because you're gonna have one guy who's maybe not great at contracting and another guy who's not great at finding buyers. So on the acquisition side, you want somebody that's experienced, maybe has a team and understands how to crank these deals out. On the dispo side, if you're the dispo person in this partnership, you want to be really sure that the person that you're partnering with or joint venturing with on this deal understands how to put a property under contract, right? And what I mean by that is they understand how to get it at the right price. They have to understand that they can't just offer the seller whatever price they want and then give you this contract to try to sell, because it's going to be a piece of crap, and it's like dragging bricks up a hill trying to find a buyer for something that's overpriced. So very important as you're working together to give each other feedback, because you don't want to waste your time. Joint venturing, not really a long-term strategy. Typically, this person is going to do it long enough till they can make some money and hire somebody in-house to do dispositions, because it's going to be cheaper, right? It's always cheaper to hire somebody than to give 50% of the profit away. If you're a really good dispo person, you will always find people that will be willing to send you contracts. Again, your process is vetting those contracts as they come in to make sure that they're a deal. Because remember, both parties in this are splitting 50. So you don't want to be doing deals where you're making $3,000 and splitting those 50-50. In our company, it had to have a spread of at least what we thought would be $20,000, so that when we're splitting it at 10 and it's worth everybody's time. Acquisitions has a cost involved, right? There's an acquisitions cost to generate the lead, put it under contract, to do all of those things. And dispositions has a cost as well, right? They're going to find a buyer's list, they've got to download it, they've got to skip trace it, they're going to send out emails, they're going to send out text messages, they're going to be on the phone calling buyers, they're driving to the property. Everybody has costs involved here, so you want to make sure that you're doing profitable business. Hopefully that answers your question. Joint venturing can be great. It's a great entry strategy if you don't want to try to do all of the process and it just feels overwhelming, but definitely a good way to get started in the business. If you like this, make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, do all the things. We'll be putting a lot more content out like this.